Gracious Father, we thank you for allowing us once again to gather in this historic place, in this sacred space, where so much history in this city has been made. Here formed the first black congregation in the Northeast, probably in all of New England. Here formed also, or started in Boston, the abolitionist movement. In this space, Jewish communities worshiped. And so this has always been a place where history is made. We invite your presence now as once more we endeavor to make history. Please be with us as our mayor executes a document that will make this not just an event, not just a moment, but part of your movement to bring equality and justice, full justice, to all the citizens of our city. And because we are such a light, because we are that city set on the hill, to our entire nation. We ask this blessings, and with all respect to those who may believe differently or not at all, I ask this in the name of Jesus, and together we say, amen.
I'm so happy to welcome you here. I'm Marita Rivero, the president of the Museum of African American History. This is Boston's house. This is Massachusetts' house. And we'd love to have your voices, your spirits enter right into the floorboards, everybody else's back from the 1700s that lets us move forward. I come from a freestanding 501c3, the Museum of African American History. It came together a little over 50 years ago. We care for these spaces, but we care for them on behalf of the citizens of Boston and of Massachusetts. So it has been a team of us, the phalanx of us, who've been able to restore the buildings here and also on Nantucket, to save these incredible stories from the people who lived here, and to be able to inspire people who are going to come after us. And I'd love to see you here. We're on the north slope of Beacon Hill. This was the home of the black community in the late 1700s, 1800s. The Black Heritage Trail, which weaves through many of these old buildings, begins to confront people with the ideas about how black Americans lived, how early black Americans lived. Their stories are so much part of the fabric of Massachusetts and of Boston that as we learn about them, they begin to speak to the very issues that we are talking about today. These buildings are symbols of the struggles for social justice and racial equity that began at the end of the 1700s. These are the issues we talk about right now. And as we think about the people in Boston who weighed in, who pushed us forward in that last push for freedom from slavery, we have to embrace them. Boston was a maritime center, so people were here from everywhere: China trade, Caribbean, Europe, Middle East, Africa. We were all here. So we talk in the museum about expanding the story we're telling. And when we expand the story, other people who come here now can look at Boston, can look at our history and realize it belongs to all of us. So for people who have a hard time understanding that big question, who's an American? We have an answer to that, right? We were all here, and we were all participating in what makes America. I think it's important for me to point that out because this community networked across race, across gender, across class, religion, ethnicity. We ended slavery because we worked together. We decided on this is a major civic engagement goal. This notion of racial equity happened because people came together across difference. And that's something we need to keep in front of us, certainly on a momentous day like this day, when we come back to what has happened before us. I see Maria's here, our wonderful mayor's here. I'd like to say that as he speaks to us, signs this document, he's standing in an historic place, but he is casting his own shadow forward over history. And we thank you for being here among us and for choosing this spot for an event of such significance. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Danny Rivera. I'm a senior classical vocal major at the Boston Arts Academy. Today is one of my teachers, Mr. Jimmy Lim. We will be performing two spirituals, Negro spirituals. One of them is called Give Me Jesus, arranged by Moses Hogan, and the other is The Water is Wide, arranged by J. Paul.
Good afternoon. I want you to put your hands together for that amazing rendition, please, by McLean Rivera. Thank you. one of the things that no matter where we're from in Black America, we are steeped in faith. And that is the calling that pulls all of us together, right? So thank you for that. And thank you, Marita, for inviting us into this beautiful space and allowing all of us to honor this moment that under the leadership of Mayor Walsh that we're able to push forward. I'm asked to talk about purpose. What is the purpose of us being here? And I walked in as Marita was talking about, we all were here in so many ways. We all were. And we come from different places, but we've all, however we got here, we all made a decision to make this beautiful city our home, and we all have something to contribute. And I think the calling has always been, how can we all be included? And how can we all be part of that decision-making process so that we're all reflected when we walk through the Boston Commons, when we walk through Downtown Crossing, when we walk through anywhere in Boston, that the wonderful, amazing history of all the people that have inhabited this space is truly reflected. And I think that our mayor, Mayor Walsh, has given us an opportunity. I'm so honored for having served with Mayor Walsh in the legislature and then to come and see him do this work here. And I want to say as a friend, I am so grateful. We have to name the challenge in order for all of us to embrace it, to set goals together, and then to go at it together. And I think what you've done is allowed us the space to really, all of us, articulate what that challenge is. And you started that we launched that through you with Dr. Atia Martins, who we're grateful for the work that she did in the first step of the process, and we're continuing that under the amazing leadership of Lori Nelson, who I know is in this room somewhere, and I want to celebrate her. You know? When we talk about equity, we talk about what people need to enjoy full, sustainable lives, as opposed to equality, which promotes the notion that if everyone has the same amount, then we're really being fair and just. The reality is we all weren't at the same starting line. So giving me the same as another doesn't necessarily get us to where we all need to be together. My vision of equity is always that child. If you think about this wall, and there's all of us lined up at this wall, trying to see what's over the wall. All of us as adults, depending upon what your privilege has been in life, can actually see over the wall and partake in what is over on the other side. But many of us are just looking at the wall. And the only way we get a chance to see over that wall, if as a society we collectively provide the lift that is necessary to see over to the other side. And what you've done, Mayor Walsh, over the past 3 years particularly, is help us lay out the plan for putting that lift in place in order for us to see the other side of the wall and partake in the benefits at all that Boston provides. So when we think about what we're supposed to do here today in order to allow each of us to equally participate in Boston, we have to think of it as collective work. It is not work that government does alone. And so when the mayor walks us through this executive order, it has been informed by you. My recollection is that 11,000 of you participated in dialogues across the city, talking about what the challenges are, what the strategies are that you envision. So this is really your action plan, your strategies, and government listened. Because honestly, we are government. We live next to you, we work with you, we talk with you. We always act like government is this entity that's out there. No, we're government, and so if we don't do, we all don't do. So that is the purpose. The purpose is how collectively we have come together, led by Mayor Walsh, would be led, and how we're going to move through a strategy to make certain that we all have a chance at a full, enjoyable, and sustainable lives. Government must be informed, supported, and driven by us. So today, each of us must take a long look at the systems in which we operate and decide where we are going to be in this work. What do you know about racial equity? All of us that talk about it anecdotally. Let us take some time to revisit what that really means for us in this city. How do your policies, strategies, and practice advance racial equity? Everyone points out at the city, but it's all of us collectively who must be in that work. When you go back to your workspace, when you go back to your place of worship, you have to ask yourself, what is it that we're doing? That's the purpose. It's the collective we, not them, but we have to turn the finger onto us and ask where we're going to participate in this work. How will you assess your success? How will you be held accountable? How will we be all be held accountable? How will we know when we've gotten there? And we know that this is not just a plan that's just going to sit on a wall or in a bookcase and then we forget about it. This is iterative work. Every generation has to come in, we have to revisit it and work together to make certain that we all get there together. So I am blessed to be able to lead to serve as the executive director of King Boston. And one of the amazing ways that we're going to be able to do that, again, through the support and partnership of the city, is to build that amazing memorial, but it's a living memorial. It only works if we're all in there together getting it done. And in 1953, after Dr. Martin Luther King had addressed the legislature, the next day, he led a march of over 20,000 people from the South End, Lower Roxbury, into the Boston Common. And at that time, he asked the crowd to help make real the promise of democracy. And he said that now is the time to make brotherhood a reality, for now is the time for us to do it. So when Lori asked me to do this, you know I've always asked, I have to figure out where we are in this work. So I am going to point at the city, and I'm grateful for the leadership. I am grateful for all the amazing work that has been done in preparation of this. Now it is up to us. So what is the purpose? The purpose is for all of us to collectively make a decision that we're going to move forward together, that we're going to get into this work together, that we're not going to do like this, we're going to do like this. And we're going to really walk arm in arm in making certain that our city is as inclusive as it ought to be, as we know that each of us in our hearts really want for ourselves and for our children, because this is really about our progeny. So, Mayor Walsh, thank you. Thank you for providing this space. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to lead, because you didn't start in City Hall. You went out to the community and you asked, what do we need, what do we want, and how do we move forward? And in order for us to be included, we have to be in the city. And then that's our purpose. We've been brought to the table. Now let's make certain that we work together to realize the objectives of this amazing piece of work that we're celebrating today. Thank you.
I cannot trust Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very excited because this is finally here, and it's been a long time coming. Certainly to the people in the front row, second row, to the chiefs. I have to always shout out my immediate boss outside of the big boss, Dave Sweeney. Chief Sweeney, thank you for your support. I'm here to introduce the mayor and CEO of the city, but I would like to say first to the mayor, thank you for picking me and allowing me to actually do this work and to bring your thought and your vision forward. It has been a long time coming with the help of everyone in this community, friends and family and community leaders alike. And so we are grateful to you for your bold, courageous act of saying that we're gonna do something more about race. We're gonna push the needle forward. And so I would like for you all to help me in welcoming the CEO of this city, our mayor, Mayor Martin J. Walsh, to the podium.
Thank you, Laurie. Thank you, Laurie. And let me just get the thank yous here. To Reverend Wright, thank you very much for that beautiful prayer. To Marie, thank you for opening the doors for us today. I'm going to talk about you in a minute, Danny. To Marie St. Fleur, thank you, Marie, my friend. I had the great honor of serving with Marie, and we fought together in civil rights battles in the State House. And we fought together for economic justice at the State House. And we fought for a whole bunch of things at the State House. And when you go into battle, having Marie St. Fleur with you is somebody you want in battle. So thank you for that. And it was battle on some of the issues we did. So thank you. To the Museum of African American History, thank you for hosting us today. To all the folks that are here, Commissioner Gross, thank you for being with us today. Sheriff Tompkins, all the chiefs, all the people here, the people from the community, thank you for being here today. I truly appreciate it and you being here. To be honest with you, and to all the clergy that are here today, thank you for your spiritual guidance in our city every day. To be honest with you, today I'm signing an executive order, which I'll explain in a little bit. And so I left my office a little while ago to come here and sign an executive order and give a speech and sign the order. And when I came in and sat down and walked into this room, and I've been in this room many times, the significance of today changed a bit. When Danny sang, it changed even more for me personally, because as Marita said, when she talked about the abolitionist movement here, and Danny was singing, when Danny was singing, I was thinking of a guy on a ship, chained, being taken from his country, being brought to some place that he didn't know about, ending up in a city, any one of them. And I thought about the people that were in this space, black and white, fighting for the freedom of people, who were chained like animals being brought to the slaughter. And I say that because some animals graze in the fields and they're not being slaughtered. And I thought that was going through my head as Danny was singing. And I was listening to the words of Marie St. Fleur when she said, it's our challenge moving forward. And I started thinking about where we are. And I don't think it's our challenge. The challenge was ending slavery. The challenge was people losing their life. That was the challenge that people had. It's our obligation to move people forward. And I think about, we're in 2019, and I think about all of the time from the end of slavery to today, and the great people and the great individuals and the great fights for civil rights and voting rights and people's rights, and I think about all of that. It's our job to continue moving people forward. Even though we probably shouldn't have to do it in 2019, we should be an equal society. Unfortunately, we're not. We're not blaming anyone for it, because there's plenty of people to blame. But the reason why I'm saying this, I think there's an opportunity. I think we have to take some time every now and then to think back on history. I think that there are organizations and people in this room that we argue and fight about what the city's doing or not doing. What government's doing and what government's not doing, what the criminal justice system's doing and not doing. And I think every now and then we have to take a step back, all of us, and appreciate the struggles that got us to this point. So that when we do have those arguments and those heated debates and conversations, why are we having those conversations? And who laid the foundation for us for the opportunity to have these conversations? So when I came in here today, this is not what I planned on talking about. But you can just feel something here. And before you leave, just take a minute, a second, to think about the conversations, the heated discussions, the fights, the tears, the joy that happened in this space. Think about that for 1 minute. What happened here? And many, many days later, allows us the opportunity to come here to advance what people fought for and advance what people lost their lives for people's freedoms and their rights here. We are a small little speck of the story, but we are part of the story. Each and every person in this room is part of the story. If you're sitting here today because you got an email from Laurie saying come, you're part of the story. If you're fighting for civil rights every single day, you're part of the story. If you're a police commissioner and you're working a job at public safety, you're part of the story. If you're the sheriff, you're part of the story. If you're a clergy, you're part of the story. If you're a resident of Mattapan, you're part of the story. If you're a resident of any place, we're all part of the story today. And that's something I think that we have to think about and think about how powerful it is. So Danny, thank you. So Danny, thank you. And to your teacher, your professor, thank you. Thank you for coming in here and, at least for me, getting my head and my heart thinking in a whole different place. If I don't follow some of these notes, I'll be in trouble because somebody put a lot of work into getting them moving forward. So I just want to briefly say the work that we do, Marie referenced the city of Boston, and the work that we do in the city, the work that we do in our city needs to continue in our neighborhoods. I want to thank people who sat down and worked with Laurie and her team. We need to continue our work in our schools because we know we have challenges in our schools. And when I say that, I'm not criticizing the public school system. I'm talking about individuals that might not think like a lot of people and young people that don't know. We have to make sure we continue work in our workplaces. We need to make sure that we continue our work, certainly in City Hall. When I was elected mayor, I was elected and I said in my first speech, I said I will listen, learn, and lead. And I meant that. Because not one person knows everything. Myself and Steve Tompkins were talking a minute ago about these jobs. These jobs are complicated. No one knows all the work, and even if we did, there's no one that knows it all. But it's important for us to continue to listen to people and lead in the way that people want us to lead. Not the way we want to lead, the way people want us to lead. We talk an awful lot about confronting the past. We talk about Boston and America having deep wounds. We talk about the fact that disparities remain and barriers remain. And we work every day, or most of us work every day to try and tear those down. We need to continue to work forward together, even if it means disagreement, even if it means arguing, even if it means tears, even if it means laughter. We need to continue to do that every single day. this journey that brought us to this point started in the campaign for mayor for me. Started in the campaign for mayor for John Barrows. Started in the campaign for mayor for Charlotte Ritchie, for Bill Walzak, for Mike Ross, for Robbie Consalvo, for John Conley. This conversation started in that race because everywhere we went to, there was a hope of a new opportunity to have a conversation. A conversation that's been happening for a long time, but kind of refreshing or restarting the conversation because it was kind of somebody knew was going to be a mayor for the first time in 20 years. And we had those dialogues all over the city of Boston. And for me, that conversation happened in Jamaica Plain when I told the story before, but we had these things called Mondays with Marty, and we'd go around to different neighborhoods and we'd have people come in and talk about whatever they wanted to talk about, what we were going to do as mayor, and we'd get there, talk about how we're going to do this and change that. And a woman asked me about racism in Boston. And she raised her hand and she said, "Can you explain to me what you think the situation of racism in Boston is?" Now, when you're running for mayor of Boston and you're speaking to a crowd and you look out and it's a diverse crowd, you're like, okay, how do I answer this? Because you want to make sure that you kind of address every single person in the room. And I said, it's not like it was in the past, but we have some work to do. And she pushed me on, what does that mean? And I said, well, I said, we have work to do, but, it's certainly, we're advancing our goals. And I reverted back to my line that I represent one of the most diverse districts in the State House, and 57% of the people in my district are people of color, and I went through the whole line, and she pushed me again. And personally, I was kind of like, I was stuck. I didn't know what to say, so I just kind of danced, and then I went to another question. But I left there, and I was angry. I wasn't angry at the woman. I was angry that I didn't have an answer. And we went back, and we started talking in my campaign about policy. We need a better answer, which meant that we need to understand what the issue is, and we need to understand the question, which means that we need to have a deep conversation about where we are as a race in our city. It's not acknowledging that we have situations and we have to do a better job. It's actually, what does it mean? What does racism mean? And understanding it means different words for different people. So what we decided to do back in the campaign was that we were gonna announce that if I became mayor, I was gonna have a conversation on race. What did that mean? We're not sure, but we were gonna have the conversation. And when I came in, we started the conversation with the Rockefeller Foundation. We started the conversation with Dr. Tia Martin, and we started the conversation in different neighborhoods. And we started having conversations and dialogues in different areas. And we brought people together, and we started thinking about this office, the Resiliency Office. And then when Dr. Tia Martin helped set it up, and the Heinz Foundation came on board. And then she left, and we needed somebody. We brought Laurie Nelson on board. Laurie is at the Boston Housing Authority. She was at the state before that, and understanding the communities. And I said, well, Laurie came on board. Dion Irish was one of the conversations at the beginning to come on board, and Dion ended up going to elections department to run our elections. But people stayed involved in the conversation. We partnered. We come up with resilient strategies. We talked about making sure these conversations happen in all our different neighborhoods. We created the Office of Diversity. We appointed the first Black police commissioner. We're diversifying the ranks of the police department for our cadet program and other ways, created command staff. This is just a piece of the puzzle. This is a piece. And we started to do more on this. Which brings us to today. A lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of conversations went into bringing us to today. This is not the answer today, because there's no answer. The answer is our work every day and what we do. Denise Rory said, Denise was in the first office. She was very vital in that first office. She did a lot of work, didn't have a lot of staff. But the answer is we need to continue to work every single day at what we do, is what we have to do. And we need to continue to keep this at the forefront. What does this executive order do? This executive order is a small piece. This executive order is not the answer to a question that we can't answer. This executive order is part of a solution to move people forward. First, we'll institute racial equity and leadership training across all city departments. We'll train city employees on best practices for delivering city services in a way that is fair and responsive to the needs of our neighborhood. Why do we need to do that? Not every single person in City Hall is thinking like every single person in City Hall. Not every single person in City Hall is sitting in this room today and understanding the history of people. We need to continue to make sure that we educate and teach and help and assist people in what we want to accomplish. Second, we're going to standardize our performance assessments to make sure that all of our departments and programs are meeting our racial equity goals. Not just John Barros' shop, not just Jerome Smith's shop, not just Marty Martinez's shop, not just Monica Valdalupe's shop. All of our city departments to hit those goals. We're going to use data to measure our progress and to hold ourselves to the highest standards. By signing this executive order today, we're making sure that all of our city services reflect all of our shared values. This is something that my words in this speech say will have real impacts every day in every neighborhood. My word is should have real impacts every day in every neighborhood, which means that we have to continue to push and press to make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. Because if we don't do it as a city, there is no reason why companies and other agencies have to do it if we're telling them what to do and we don't do it ourselves. This is something that will have opportunity about access to healthcare services, fairness in hiring, preparedness in the face of our biggest challenges. I feel when we look back on today, it will be a milestone on how we approach and how people approach local government. It's an example of what we can achieve when we get people together and we work together. I want to end by thanking everyone who worked very hard on this, especially our Chief Resiliency Officer, Laurie Nelson, and her team. I want to thank you, Laurie. I want to thank the Rockefeller Foundation and 100 Resilient Cities who, when we applied for this, 100 Resilient Cities, anyone who's familiar with 100 Resilient Cities, it's about the environment usually. That's what it is. We put an application in about the environment. And what we did was we put an application about racism. And in the application, we talked about busing. And we talked about civil rights. And we talked about inequities. And we talked about all the dirty stuff that we have to talk about every single day in the city of Boston that people say about us as a racist city. We put it all out there. And we were chosen. So thank you, 100 Resilient Cities. When we wanted to continue this work, thank you, Heinz Foundation, for allowing us the opportunity to continue this work. I want to thank the museum. I want to thank you for opening your doors to us today. But more importantly, I want to thank this museum for opening the doors hundreds of years ago to people to come in this room. And I just want to end by, if there are people, and there are, in our city that are questioning the work that we're doing, is it really making a difference? The only way that I can answer that question, the only way that we can answer that question is not by criticizing us, but by joining in this work to make sure we move forward. Thank you.
prepare to close this in prayer. I'm the Reverend Sam Acevedo from the Congregación León de Judá. On the last night of his life, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King declared, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hatred cannot drive out hatred. Only love can do that." You live in inexpressible light, and your glory illuminates the world. And 100 years ago, your glory illuminated this room and heard the cries of Bostonians who knew that there was more light to be had on the streets of the city and of this country. Thank you, Lord, that light is a little brighter today in the city of Boston. Thank you for having extended your light. Lord, that as a consequence of what happens today, one more family may be fed, another household avoids an untimely death, and our children may walk in dignity and achieve the greatness that you've deposited in their hearts. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May he cause his face to shine upon you and have mercy on you. And may he lift his face upon you and give you peace. I pray in Jesus' name. Thank you, Lord.